Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've been cleared for takeoff and we'll be departing shortly.
Go ahead and give that man a round of applause.
That boy's got talent.
Welcome back to episode 2 on, I guess you could call this mixing theory, tutorials, craft and trade entertainment. Shaney Haycraft here with you. And what we're going to go over today is some basics on equalization plugins and kind of my process on how I do it. Now, keep in mind with these tutorials, you know, because I'm sure I'll see in the comments, oh, I do this, I do that, and that's great, and I'm sure that that's fine and works for you, you know, but this, I'm just showing my process and the way that I do things, you know, over 20 years of doing probably things the wrong way, some things the right way. This is the conclusion that I've came to as far as how I do things. So it's just another way to skin a cat, you know, if maybe some other engineer that you've seen tutorials on, like the way they do things just doesn't work for you. This is an alternative, maybe a different avenue to take. And maybe the way that I'm explaining it and the way that I do things doesn't work for you. And I'm sure there's another engineer out there with a different approach to mixing or a different approach to certain parts of it that may work better for you. So anyway, let's move on. So what I have pulled up here is a vocal. I had a woman in here. It's been a minute ago, but she did a Tennessee whiskey cover. And so I have the raw vocal here, and I'm going to show you that I don't have any plugins on the track. Right here is the track. It's raw, so we're going to play it real quick, or just play a portion of it. Okay.
I used to spend my nights out in the bar room. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey.
Okay, so you get an idea of what's going on there. And I recorded that with my 387, so it's pretty smooth. I mean, already. That mic's, tailor-made for vocalists like that. But doesn't mean that some things can't be cleaned up. And, we're not going to get too deep into actually trying to sculpt the audio because I've already done that in another session. This cover's already out. But just for demonstration purposes, we'll go through it again. So we're going to go over to the mix window. And I will kind of tie the compression into this too. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up Pro Q3. This is the EQ that I use a lot, and it's good for a visual representation of what's going on as well. So that's kind of why I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. Now, this is flat. There's no EQ. I'm going to pull up one of my presets that I have. This is what's called South Precomp. It's for what I put first in the chain as far as EQ cutting. Now, as you can see, I've got a roll off here. Now you got notches, high pass, low pass. I've got what I believe they refer to as a low pass. So in this EQ, you can move it back and forth. And this is just for vocals. You can, for guitar and piano and, brass, there's different rules for it, but you can kind of look up what those instruments, where their sweet spots are. But since the vocal doesn't really reside down here, and I'll show you in a moment, we'll roll off all these frequencies that are over here because they're not there anyway, and it's only going to be unnecessary noise, I guess, so to speak. But we'll go ahead and hit play.
I used to spend my nights out in the bar room. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone.
Now, as you can see on that roll off, when I brought it far over here into, we're getting into like the 3K range here and 8 and 16 all up here. But when we started to roll it off too far this way, you could see that the vocal got very thin. And as you brought it back this way, it started to fill out on that bottom end. But I don't want to pull it all the way. I don't want all that bottom end because I don't want it to get muddied up with the bass guitar, the kick drums, 808s, all that. So I want to find a happy median between not rolling it off too far, not bringing it too far up. And so also I was waving the cursor around this area here because as you can see, there was a lot going on here frequency-wise, and I'll play it again to show you.
I used to spend my nights out in the bar room. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet, just as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy. And honey, I stay stoned on your love all the time. I've looked for love in all the same old places. Found the bottom of a bottle's always dry. But when you poured out your heart, I didn't waste it. 'Cause there's nothing like your love to get me high. You're as smooth.
Now, some of the things I was doing there, all you have to do on Pro Q is double click somewhere in the waveform and it will add a set point. Now, over here, and all EQs, or not all EQs, but the majority of them have what they refer to as Q here. And that just determines how specific of the frequency you're going to cut and leave the other ones around it alone, or how broad a cut that affects the frequencies around it you want. I'm going to keep it about there. Now, you can do your frequency sweeps and your gains by pulling them here on the graphical part of it, but you can also use these knobs here. You can shift the frequency left and right using this knob, and you can boost or cut using this. Now, my philosophy on EQing is that I would cut before I boost. And the reason for that is that I can get the same effect. If I want, let's say, this frequency to shine, of course I could boost it up, but I'm adding decibels to the mix by doing that, where I could achieve the same result by cutting the frequencies around it down. So if I wanted to boost this 1.5 up, I would just probably do like maybe, I don't know, 0.6 a decibel on the left and the right here to cut those frequencies down a little bit to let this one shine. What you're trying to do in this cutting phase is, what I'll do is I'll grab it and I'll bring it up here and sweep left and right, exaggerate that frequency so that I can listen and I can tell where the problems are. If it's kind of honky or muddy or too crunchy or whatever the case is, I can sweep to find where that frequency is, and then I can kind of play with the cuts, make adjustments to the Q, things like that. to get all the nastiness and all the things that you don't want in that signal or that vocal out of there. Now, a lot of that comes with a good tracking, like when you're recording, making sure your preamp's set, I'm trying to think what they actually refer, the gain staging your mic to capture whatever you're capturing. But a lot of times, if you're a mixing engineer like me that has things sent to you, you can't, it's already done. You've had the vocal sent to you. It might have been recorded in a studio, who knows where. And so the way that vocal is printed. It can't be changed, as far as I can't change the original. But so I'm forced to maybe cut things out to try to clean that vocal up before I compress it. And also when I cut, I'm taking decibels out of the mix, which will allow me ultimately to raise the whole entire volume or decibel level of the entire mix, and it still sound nice and clean. If you start boosting frequencies and not cutting anything nasty out, when you bring that volume level of that particular track up or that signal up, all the other nasty frequencies are going to be boosted along with it because you didn't cut them out. That's why I cut first. And then what I would do here is I would go ahead and place my compression in here. I'm not going to go through compression because I did that on another tutorial, but I would place my compressor here and I'll set it just so that I can show you what I mean, but let's play it again.
I used to spend my nights out in the barroom. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet, just as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy.
Okay, so you kind of get the idea. I've cut my bad frequencies out here, and then I've moved on to the compression with that nice clean cut signal so that it can do what it's meant to do. And
I used to spend my nights out.
So you got your compression, right? So now you've got your cutting, you've got your compression, and it would be okay, as far as the EQing and the cutting or the equalization and the compression there. You could possibly get away as far as sculpting that part of the vocal. You could probably get away with just that. But what I like to do, and you could, a lot of times I use the Pro Q3 EQ again after compression to boost slightly. I'm not doing anything crazy, but just if I want to add some sparkle or some bite to a particular vocal because that record calls for it, then, that's where I might do some boosting on another version. But something I've been using lately, and I'm not sponsored by them, but Slate Digital had a free download for an EQ that they have. And let me find it where it's at. Just a moment, because it doesn't show up in the normal ones. Yeah, I did. Okay. No, it's called Fresh Air. That's what it's called. That's the name of the EQ from Slate Digital, but let me just find it. Just bear with me here. There it is, Fresh Air. It's in harmonic for some reason, but whatever. And I just got this, so I haven't had it for very long, but I kind of think I can explain to you what it is. It's kind of a mid EQ and an EQ for your mids and your highs. And some of the features of it is that, you can independently like give how much of a boost you want to the highs and the mid. And they do in this particular EQ, I guess is what I would call it, in a way. It has a certain way that it does this, but you can change this independently all day long. And then you say, I like the balance of the effect, an 18 on the mids and 25 on the highs. You can link that then. And then no matter how much you boost that, the balance of the mid to the high will stay the same. You're just boosting the entire EQ. And then if you wanted to unlink it and you're like, maybe I just want to put a little bit more high on that, boom, and then link it back. Or maybe you're like, I want to put a little bit more mid on it. Bada bing, bada boom. Same with, cutting that back out. But let me pull up a preset I made for myself, and we'll see how it sounds on this. I don't know how it will, but we'll give it a shot.
I used to spend my nights out in the barroom. Liquor was the only love I know.
That's without it.
But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone.
So as you can see, it does something nice to it. I like the way it sounds. Sometimes you don't have to understand why something sounds good to know that it does. But if we wanted to go the other route with it, we would just insert, I'm just going to go ahead and use Pro Q again and kind of show you what I would do on the back side of it. So at this point, this flatness, that's fine because we've already cut that out here. We don't need to cut again here because it doesn't exist there already because we cut it out initially. This doesn't exist to the tune of 1.7 decibels. This doesn't exist to the tune of 2.2, 1.9, yada, yada, yada. And I'd probably even bring that back down a little bit because that's got a bit of a boost there and a bit of a boost there. And for the sake of this demonstration, we don't need that. So then what we might do is this. Right now, this is disabled or bypassed, so the fresh air will not be doing anything. You're going to hear just this. The original EQ cut and the compression, and then I'll show you kind of how you can do that. And I'll show you kind of what this is doing, almost the same as what fresh air does, I assume.
I used to spend my nights out in the barroom. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom and brought me back from being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet, just as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy. And honey, I stay stoned on your love all the time. I've looked for love in all the same old places. Found the bottom of a bottle's always dry. But when you poured out your heart, I didn't waste it. 'Cause there's nothing like your love to get me high. You're as smooth whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine.
So you kind of get an idea. I didn't have a lot of time to mess with it there, but I still think if you're going for what Pro Q does in that scenario versus if you're using Pro Q to do what Fresh Air does, I still think Fresh Air just does a better job of it and a quicker job. And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to doing mixes, if this is going to do something quicker than what it takes me to do it with Pro Q, I'm going to do it with Fresh Air. But that is going to come with time, understanding what plugins shine in what areas, EQs, compressors, reverbs, delays, chorusing effects, modulations, all that. Kind of understanding what plugins sound like what their capabilities are, and that will help you make quicker decisions in the future to how to get the same results. Like if I can get the same results and not sacrificing quality at all with one EQ that can do it quickly with a preset or whatever, versus having to go through a lot more work on another plugin to get the same results, I'm going to use the plugin that makes it easier, as long as the results are the same. So let's go back and listen to it with the Fresh Air again.
I used to spend my nights out in the bar room. Liquor was the only love I know. But you rescued me from reaching for. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet, just as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy.
So that's just another little crash course into EQ. This is specifically for vocals, but you can use this, I don't know what you want to call it, philosophy on a number of things. I mean, and this is the way I go about doing it. You know, I cut anything that needs to be cut out of that signal first, and then I'll go ahead and if I need to use compression, then I will set my compressor on there and get it dialed in right until I'm happy with what I have from cutting, and also from, and the cutting is to balance and get what I would refer to as kind of a flat signal. And then I can compress that signal. So I kind of know I'm not going to get any funny frequency surprises. And then once I've got that compressed, then I might throw an EQ if necessary back on there, just to, maybe make some boosts here for artistic purposes or whatnot. But that's how I do things as far as EQ, is at least specifically on vocals. But you can look up, like I said, if you want to use this same technique on a bass drum or whatever, you could look up and see that a bass drum resides down, in the anywhere from, like 50 hertz up to 250. It depends. So, in that case, the meat and potatoes of the signal would not be up here. It would be down here where the bass frequencies are at. So instead of rolling off here and keeping all these frequencies, you would roll off the opposite way, somewhere, I don't know, around here, and keep the frequencies here for the bass. Get rid of all this. It's nonsense. It doesn't belong here. It's not there anyway. And this is. So you're just wanting to keep what you need out of each signal. And trim the fat off and compress that. And then after you've got it compressed and you're working on the mix and trying to understand how to fit that signal or that piece of the song into the mix, a little bit of boosting may help you achieve that, or may help give you the sound that you're wanting to help something poke through. So I hope I've made that a little clearer than mud. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for a moment. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace and chicken grease, my homies.